Howdy, and welcome to the Highline Herd podcast, where stories ride strong and the bond between folks and their horses runs deep. Each Sunday, we're talking everything from trail tips and tack to good old horse sense and the people who live it every day. Keep up with the herd by following us over on Instagram at the Highline Herd and swinging by our website at thehighlineherd.com. Now, let's ride into today's episode. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Highline Herd. I'm Skylar.
And I'm Shelby.
And today we're going to be talking about how do you select your horse's people?
Yeah, so one big thing that I especially will preach over and over and over when you have horses, make sure you build a horse community of people you trust.
Yes.
And, that is, if you board somewhere, make sure it's a boarding facility you trust. If you have a trainer, make sure it's a trainer you trust. If it's a vet, farrier, anybody, make sure you trust them.
Yes.
So in this episode, we're going to kind of go over all of that. How do you select those people? How do you make sure you trust them? What should you look out for? So we'll kind of probably start more with the obvious ones. Your board facility, your vet, your farrier, how do you select them?
Yeah.
So we'll probably start more obvious with that. So, boarding, what everyone knows, take a tour, check references. But when you're doing those, what are you actually asking? What are you actually looking for?
Yeah, that's the big thing. I notice a lot of people that I saw when I was working at a large facility, they would just kind of come in, glance around, ask a few mundane questions, but they didn't dive into the nitty-gritty aspects of it. And that's something that's very important because you'll get a better idea of how the horses are treated, how the whole system runs and operates, but also the attention to detail that the people, owning the facility give those animals. And that's like one of the biggest things. Like, you want people that are going to look after your horse as if it's their own.
You want people who are going to look after it to similar standards as you. How would you care for your horse? Well, when you board them, you want them to be cared for very similarly. Now, the reason I say similar and not same is because sometimes some people have a certain standard of care that is not necessarily realistic to the horses.
Yeah, you make a good point.
There's some people that expect a facility to be completely fly-free. That's an example of an unrealistic expectation.
Yeah.
Yes, some facilities have less flies than others. Great. But the amount of flies you have on your property and in your facility, there are so many variables that go into that.
Oh, yeah.
Expecting there to be none is unrealistic.
No.
So, that's why I say similarly, not same.
Mm-hmm.
So, you're going in hoping that these people have the same mindset you do about horse care, though. You're going to be looking at coats and going, well, everybody looks fat, everybody's hair is glossy, stalls look pretty well cleaned and everything. But what are some of the subtle things you should look at to check care? So one big thing I do is I wash my feed scoops. So if you get the opportunity, glance in the feed room. How do they take care of their feed? Mm-hmm. What do the feed scoops look like? What do the feed dishes look like? Do they use corner feeders? Well, then do they take the time to clean those corner feeders? Mm-hmm. What does the horse's salt blocks look like? Like, those are little things that, most people don't think about, but they are things you should look at to see, just what level of care is actually truly being given. Because if someone's willing to go through the annoying, sometimes frustrating part of cleaning corner feeders and cleaning scoops, even if it's once a month, that is still, making sure what your horse is getting is clean and healthy.
Yeah.
So, it's never going to be the same standard of care. Everybody has a different view of standard of care. Mm-hmm. But you're aiming for someone with a similar view as you.
Yeah.
And you're aiming with somebody that's going to truly acknowledge, it is ultimately your horse. So what are some of the questions? Like, I know, Skylar, you mentioned people would come in and ask mundane questions, but what are some questions you would ask if you were going to board?
Oh, yeah. Personally, I would ask every question that I could. what does turnout look like? That's going to be my biggest one. If it's a facility that I'm boarding at, I want to make sure my horse gets the adequate amount of pasture time and they're not just kept in a stall 24/7. Because that's something I used to see quite a bit of. And that's no way for a horse to live.
It's not, no.
No.
I see that a lot at school barns.
Yes. Yeah. Or lesson barns, etc. Like, the horses don't have enough turnout time, but they have plenty of riding time. Like, that, you gotta give them fun time. You gotta get them time to play and be a horse.
It's definitely a balance, for sure.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's one of the questions, is what's the turnout time look like? But what happens if there's an emergency? One big thing I see a lot is the employees are left to deal with the emergency, but where's the manager?
Yeah.
Where's the barn owner? You know? Like, if I, as the owner of a horse, if I'm boarding my horse somewhere, and I walk in, and there's an emergency involving my horse, but I'm not dealing with the manager, I'm not going to think very highly of the manager or that facility.
No.
Because ultimately, yes, you have people working for you, you know, stall cleaners, feeders, whatever. Those aren't the people that are ultimately in charge of what is happening with those horses.
Mm-mm.
That is entirely on the manager.
Yes. Yeah, and if your manager also isn't around as much, or they're not quick to respond, that's another red flag, you know, for me personally. I want somebody to at least be accessible in, you know, given that it's good hours, not just like the middle of the night that you're trying to get a hold of people.
Are you available normal business hours?
Yeah.
7 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Yep.
But if something happens, are you available past 6 p.m. outside of regular business hours?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, yeah, you don't want to be blowing up your manager's phone, but at the same time, the manager does need to be, you know, able to respond and say, yep, I looked over everybody today. The horses look great. So-and-so looks fantastic. I noticed absolutely nothing wrong. It takes 5 minutes out of a manager's day for them to just walk around their facility and kind of give everybody a look over and talk to their employees.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing, too, that I've noticed more and more is facilities are installing cameras. So there will be either like live feed cameras or cameras that you can tune into, like Ring, essentially. And that, honestly, if you are boarding somewhere, it might be something that you can consider or talk about with the person on the property. Just ask if that's an option or something that they offer or have, you know, that's just a peace of mind, you know, that you can look in and check on your horse if you don't get, you know, active updates.
And then here's the other thing. Does the facility allow surprise visits? This goes for if you're deciding on a trainer or your horse's permanent home. Within reason. Again, if you're showing up to the property at midnight and you're surprised nobody's there, it's midnight.
Yeah.
But, you know, within reasonable business hours, again, 7 to 7, you know, between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., if you want to give a surprise visit and the facility is absolutely like, yes, please come in, just show up to make sure your horse is getting the standard of care you want, that is a huge green flag. The facilities that are like, oh, no, you're not allowed to just pop in, you gotta let me know ahead of time. Those are kind of your more red flag facilities.
Red or orange.
Yeah. Like, don't get me wrong, some facilities do have curfews and they institute them for a reason. But, you know, again, within reasonable business hours, you should be able to go see your horse whenever you want. And trust that when you show up, there's nothing awry.
Yes. No fishy business.
No fishy business. Like your horse being used when you don't want them used. Your horse being handled inappropriately. I have a horse in my barn I've realized has stall trauma, which means someone beat him in the stall. Outside of the stall, he's fine. But if you go in his stall with any kind of, like, negative energy and you have a rope in your hands, he is going to shake and tremble in the corner. That means at one point where he was boarded before me, someone just used the stall as a beating place. Yeah. And, you know, those are the things you're looking for when you're boarding a horse, to avoid those people, which ties into a little bit employees and sitters. Yes. So when you're looking, you know, either at hiring an employee for your own barn or the employees at a boarding facility, are the employees happy about their job? Do they talk to the horses? Do they touch the horses? Or do they look like they're just robots going through the motions? Like they could care less about the animals they're handling?
Yeah, that's a big factor, to just kind of pay attention to the staff if you are going through or touring a facility. You know, how are they acting? How are they behaving towards the horses? How are they leading the horses or cleaning the stalls or interacting with them?
How are they acting around the manager?
Yes.
Do they seem afraid to tell the managers things? Do they seem afraid to even come up to the manager?
Mm-hmm.
Or are they more than willing to come over and interrupt the tour you're receiving to say, hey, so-and-so's, doing this and looks like this. And if they're comfortable enough to come up to the manager during a tour to share that, more often than not that facility is taking the care very, very seriously.
Yeah, or they trust each other too, to that extent where they're comfortable, conversing and talking through problems. That's a big thing.
Yeah. So when you're looking at having your horse stay somewhere, board somewhere, train somewhere, you're going to look at, and you have people coming to care for your horse at your own facility. You want to make sure they're have the same mindset as you.
Yeah, farm sitters are a big thing, especially in our area too. Mm-hmm. People want to go on vacation, the barn owners, etc. And I've heard it's not uncommon for people to ask their boarders, like, hey, would you want to step in and take over while I go on a family vacation,
And are you comfortable with the other boarders at your facility?
Yes.
Are you comfortable with the people at your facility? When you're keeping your horse somewhere, whether it's on property or in a boarding facility, you want to be 100% confident in everybody handling them, that they have the necessary knowledge, they have the necessary thought process, and they do view it much like you.
Mm-hmm.
I know when it comes to handling methods, there are multiple degrees people are willing to consider as, too much or too little. Some people see a light little pop with the lead rope as cruelty. Some people see a light pop as not enough. So make sure in terms of handling, you're happy with everybody who's handling your horses.
Yeah. No, I've seen people mistreat other people's horses in ways that I just kind of, ooh.
Yeah, you're like, well, I don't want you in my barn.
Yes, exactly. And you kind of get a feel and get that vibe. And you're like, I would rather you not handle my horse.
Yeah. And, that's boarding employees, sitters. You're looking at, how is my horse going to be handled by these people? Do I trust them to handle my horse?
Yeah. And honestly, the biggest tell for any type of mistreatment, the animals.
It truly...
How do the horses act to random strangers?
How do the horses... Yeah, how do the horses react when people come in their stalls, when people try to halter them, try to put a fly mask on them, a blanket?
Mm-hmm.
All these things that seem like simple everyday actions can be huge tells into how horses are handled.
Yeah, a traumatized horse will have big reactions to the smallest things, and you'll be able to tell right away.
Well, sometimes it's not even like big reactions. Willie is one of those that he just kind of... You can see it, but you have to know what you're looking at to see it. He shuts down. Yeah. For certain things, Willie just shuts down. It's not a huge reaction. It's not a big freak out or explosion. It's quiet.
Mm. I forget. Sometimes I get too too crazy in horse behavior, so I know how to read horses a little bit more. But yeah, that is something that you'll want to pay attention to. How do they behave towards total strangers? Are they happy-go-lucky, just cute little cuddly horses?
Is everybody's head hanging out of their stalls or over the fence to say hi to you and greet you? That's kind of your tell.
Yep.
So that really does tie into choosing a vet and a farrier, because both of those people, whereas a boarding facility you can personally go and see and vet. Mm-hmm. More often than not, I don't know many people that have the ability to go and see a vet or farrier work before they hire them.
No, I don't think it's very common.
It's not. Unless you leased or boarded and you moved and you're allowed to still use the same farrier and vet, you typically don't get to have a pre-check. Yeah. So when it comes to vets, the biggest thing is communication. Make sure your vet can respond to you in a timely manner. I know our vet, Heather. She's very, very busy. She usually gets booked out, but if I send her a text, even if it's a simple question, she usually gets back to me within the same day. Oh, yeah. Or the next day. And that is kind of what you're looking for in a vet. Mm-hmm. Can they reply to you, even if it's non-emergent? Just answer a quick question or get a quick schedule in. Yep. Make sure the people referring the vet to you are people you trust.
Yes. That is a big one.
I know a lot of people love a vet facility around here. I do not like them whatsoever, and I don't trust the people that use them. Mm-hmm. And part of it is, one, communication. They're not, at least in my experience, not well known for great communication. but also they have a tendency to talk down on owners.
Yeah.
And a big thing with vets is they need to be willing to work within your means.
Mm-hmm.
No one's made of money. Horses get expensive, and sometimes, you're looking at different treatment options, and you have to choose the cheapest treatment option.
Yes.
So, is your vet willing to work within that without judging you?
Mm-hmm.
Because some treatments do get expensive.
Oh, yeah.
Some of those ulcer meds out there get pricey. And I know what I was paying for Valor's for a year wasn't as expensive as some of the other options.
Mm-hmm.
But is your vet willing to work within that? Are they
Yes.
willing to be understanding of that?
Yeah.
Are they willing to listen to you when you say things like, yeah, my horse really doesn't like men. Like, if you could just take it slow and give him some cookies first before you try to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
If the vet seems to blow you off and is like, no, I'll just get it over with. Like, I've handled horses before. If that's kind of their approach, you probably don't want to choose them.
Yeah. If it's somebody who tries to rush through the process of being there, taking care of your horse, it's kind of red flags for me.
It really is. If they're not willing to sit there and listen to your concerns and take them seriously, and don't get me wrong, we are all guilty of the worried, overthinking it, panicking because, oh my goodness, half his limbs hanging off because it's a deeper cut than normal.
Yeah.
We're all prone to panic moments. How does your vet handle that?
Yes.
Does your vet kind of go into it like, okay, it's okay. This isn't that serious. I've seen worse. Here's how we're going to handle it. Here's what you're going to do. Or does the vet go in like, okay, you're being ridiculous. It's fine. It's not that serious. I'm just going to put in like 20 stitches and he'll walk it off tomorrow. Like, how do you want your vet to handle those situations? How do you want your vet to handle you?
Yeah.
Because you're not always going to be the voice of reason. Much as we would like to be.
Yeah.
We're not going to be.
Nope. Nope. Can't be that all the time.
No. So how does the vet handle it?
Mm-hmm.
So trust your gut. You want your vet to communicate with you. You want your vet to hear you and take you seriously. But you also, obviously want them to respect you and respect, just as you want to respect their knowledge, they need to respect yours.
Yep.
And that ties into the farrier. How well do they communicate? Do they listen to your concerns? Are they willing to, if you have a, horse with trauma or an older horse, take it slow? That is probably the biggest thing. One of the horses in my barn can take 3 hours just to do his fronts. He can take 2 to 3 hours just to do his front feet because he physically cannot stand on 3 legs for a long period of time and he needs breaks. Do you have a farrier willing to do that? Mm-hmm. Do you have a farrier that's willing to say, this horse is out of my league, here's the recommendation? Yeah. Those are all things you need to take into consideration with a farrier.
Oh, yes. And also, references. You want them to have good references. And again, similar to the vet, from people you trust. And that you would take their advice if something were to happen.
And the nice thing about farriers is you can usually see their work. Unlike a vet, you can usually get a picture, an example of a farrier's work before they come.
Yes.
But ultimately, make sure the people involved, you trust them. You trust their recommendation, you trust their knowledge of horse care, and it's similar to your standard. Mm-hmm. So that is your boarding facility, that is your employees, your sitters, your vets, your farriers. Now we get into the most important person in your life and your horse's life. Mm-hmm. Someone who can make the tough call. Yep. Someone who can step in when you can't.
Who is your emergency contact?
Yep. So when we say emergency contact in horses, we don't just mean for the person. Yes, obviously, you need to have somebody come help you if something happens, but they also need to be willing to help your horse. Yep. If it's feeding your horse, taking care of your horse, turning your horse out, if it's making the tough call on whether or not to care for your horse or euthanize your horse. Do you have somebody you trust to do that?
Yes. And that person that you have picked, do they have similar beliefs or would they act in a similar manner to you?
Yes.
That's a big thing.
That is a huge thing. Do you trust them to lead with their head and not their heart? Because I know some people, don't get me wrong, they love their animals very, very, very much, but they are very clouded by that fact. Mm-hmm. And they will try to do whatever they can for them, even when it's not necessarily fair to them.
Make decisions based off of the heart. Yes.
Yeah. You gotta make decisions based off quality of life. And ultimately, there are some things that, for me personally, colic surgery is out of the question. For any horse I own, colic surgery is out of the question, that is where I draw the line.
Yeah.
If the vets are talking about colic surgery, I'm going to make the call and say euthanize them, because the recovery on that
It's so hard.
It's so hard, and their chances of colicking again within the year is so much higher. So I personally would never do that, and I don't want my emergency contact to think that's an option.
Mm-hmm.
So when we say make sure they have similar beliefs and similar views, that's what we mean.
Yep.
If it is a leg injury and they're only going to be pasture sound, that is a conversation you need to have, because some people are willing to have pasture pets and some people aren't.
Yes. Some people can't afford to have a pasture pet, which is completely understandable.
Fair and understandable. Absolutely. So is your emergency contact on the same page as you with that? So your emergency contact isn't just about you or your horse. It is, in this case, it is your horse we're focused on.
Yes. If you are not available and you cannot provide a decision for anything that has happened, who do you put in place of that?
And do you trust them to make that decision? If something happens to you and, say your horse is completely fine, it was just a bad car accident or whatever, and you can't, for whatever reason, make calls about your horse's care, pay for board, whatever, do you have somebody that can step in and help you while you're hospitalized?
Yes.
Do you have somebody in place if, for whatever reason, you can't maintain your horse's care anymore? Obviously, for some people, they do have to sell due to those accidents. But that is something, everyone wants to avoid. So do you have somebody to help you?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the name of this episode comes into play. Your horse's people. They're your people too. It's your community.
Yes.
It's people you are trusting to train your horse, handle your horse, feed your horse, love your horse like you do.
Mm-hmm.
It is people you are putting into place to take care of this thing that is entirely reliant on humans for its safety and peace of mind. But honestly, I think the most important thing about an emergency contact, do you trust them to make that call?
Mm-hmm.
Because I can think right now, the people in my life, I only have maybe 2 or 3 I would trust to make that call.
Yeah.
I'm
pretty much in the same boat.
Yeah.
I have a lot of people in my life who unfortunately would lead with their heart. And in an emergency situation, I would much rather somebody lead with their head more than anything.
And you know what? Here, I will say it because I'm not afraid to. Sometimes that decision comes down to finances.
Mm-hmm.
And there is absolutely no shame in that.
No, not at all.
No shame in making the decision based on finances. Yes, your horse could have a great recovery, but if it puts you $40,000 in debt, for some people that is not feasible.
Mm-hmm.
And there is nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
So, trust that you can trust that person not only to make that tough call for the horse, but for you.
Uh-huh.
And that there is going to be no judgment in place about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because we can't, as much as we want to live in fairy tale heartland, we can't always save them.
No.
It's not always probable, whether it's time, finances, severity of injury, whatever. Sometimes letting them go is the only option.
And it's the most humane.
Sometimes it is the most humane, and sometimes it's just the only one.
Mm-hmm.
So don't ever feel guilty for making that decision.
No,
either.
never. It's a hard decision to make. And
it
for
really
anybody
is.
that does, props to you.
I was witness. So, before we end this episode, I might as well give a story about somebody who had to make that call. The owners were overseas. The owners weren't even in the country for us to contact when it happened. Their horse violently colicked, like one of the most extreme cases of colic one can receive. She was thrashing, throwing herself on the ground against the walls, everything, flailing her legs because she was in so much pain. They wound up hauling her up to OSU, and she was thrashing in the trailer. When they pulled her out of the trailer, she had cut herself up so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a circumstance where the manager had to make the call. The owners weren't in contact. They were not reachable. They had to make the call for the horse. And I know the manager questioned her decision, every step of the way, but she knew in her head and in her heart that the best thing for that horse was euthanizing it. So as much as it sucks and as much as it is exhausting and draining, and you are going to question the call, and the person you're trusting will question the call, what is ultimately the best one?
Yeah.
In this scenario, euthanasia was the best option. Mm-hmm. This horse was in agony, and there was no fixing it.
Yeah.
So,
and sometimes that's the sad reality of horse ownership.
It really is.
There's going to be cases like, and with any pet, or with any type of life. It's just, it's a part of it. And it's unfortunate when something does happen. But it's always, always, always a good idea to have plans in place and have people in those positions.
And it's good to have somebody, too, that can step in. Even if you are fully present, even if you are, there for everything, sometimes it helps to have somebody be able to come in, put their hand on their shoulder and say, hey, back off, let me step in.
Yeah.
Because they can see you emotionally cannot handle it.
Yep.
And so when we say a horsey community, a horse community, horse people, that's what we mean.
Yeah. Your community is your rock when things go wrong.
And things, unfortunately, do go wrong.
At some point, they will. Yeah.
So we know this episode, was a bit of a downer towards the end, but it's a very, very important episode for you guys to hear.
Oh, yeah.
And they're very important things for you to think about.
Yes. So, stay tuned. Next week's episode is going to be pretty exciting.
Mm-hmm.
We hope you enjoyed this week's topic. Join us for new episodes every Sunday. And to keep up with the herd, be sure to follow us on Instagram at The Highline Herd and visit our website at thehighlineherd.com. We hope you enjoy the show. See you next week.